My name's Robert Murtagh. I'm a first-year politics, philosophy and economics student at Queen's University. And I've been involved with public achievement for about 4 years now. First with the WIMS project, I sit on the board now, and recently with the Vote to 16 campaign and the Rock the Vote campaign. I want to start off by saying just how amazing the artists have been tonight, and it really shows the amazing homegrown talent we have here. And I also have to say, this isn't the first time I've had to do a speech following Louise, and it doesn't get easier, I really have to say that, and well done to James as well. I want to just make a quick comment. When we were coming in this evening to set up, we were delayed a bit to about 5:30 or so. And I have to say, Mr. Speaker, it's great to hear that business actually goes on here, you know. No offence, but anyway. I want to talk about democracy, and I really don't want to keep this long because I know you just want to get some food and people want to go home and all the rest of it. But anyway, democracy is a word that we use in everyday political discourse, but it's much more complex than we often give credit for. Democracy actually comes from two ancient Greek words, demos and kratos, which loosely translated means power to or power of the people. And in its most simplest form, that's what democracy is. It's power to or power of the people. The ancient Greeks are often accredited as the founders of democracy, and it's not actually true, but we'll go with it for now anyway. But in ancient Greece, it was only well-educated, kind of wealthy men who were allowed to participate in democracy. And they did so by voting and speaking at a national assembly of sorts. Thankfully, democracy has progressed from ancient Greece. So now women, poor people, ethnic minorities, and 18-year-olds all have the opportunity to participate in democracy and to vote in elections. But we have to continue this evolution of suffrage, to extend the vote to 16 and 17-year-olds. In the American Revolution, the cry was no taxation without representation. 16 and 17-year-olds can work in full-time employment and pay tax, but they can't decide the government who will determine how much tax they pay. 16 and 17-year-olds can join the army, but they cannot decide the government who will send them to war. And as Louise alluded to, the Scottish referendum dispelled of any myth that 16 and 17-year-olds shouldn't be given the right to vote because they're not mature enough, or they're too lazy, or they're not engaged. And those, I have to say, are quite offensive remarks to someone who, 16 and 17 myself, was engaged, wasn't lazy to vote, and wanted to participate in democracy. Evidence also suggests that the younger you are to vote, the more likely you are to vote. So it's a habitual thing. There is a wave of constitutional change throughout the United Kingdom, and 16 and 17-year-olds has to be part of that change. And as Louise alluded to as well, the Scottish Parliament passed a motion for their support for 16 and 17-year-olds. So did our Assembly. But the Scottish Parliament, and I believe the Welsh National Assembly, God, I'm nearly talking in Welsh there, the Welsh National Assembly, have gone a step further. Because not only have they passed a motion to support votes at 16, but they have said they want it to be a devolved matter. And our Assembly has to follow suit. 16 and 17-year-olds should be a devolved matter, and in the next Assembly election, we should see 16 and 17-year-olds out to vote because their voice matters. To go back to ancient Greece for a moment, and I'm not giving a lecture on ancient Greece, don't worry, but those who were eligible to participate in democracy did so because it was their right. But not only because it was their right, but it was because it was their responsibility. There was much emphasis in Greece on public life. This idea of participation is absolutely key to democracy today. Without participation, there is no democracy. So that leads to the question, well, what is participation? And what do we mean by participation? Well, of course, the easiest way to participate in democracy is to vote, be it local council, local assembly, Westminster, or European elections. Which leads to another question. Why is voting important? And we know that 18 and 25-year-olds have the lowest voter turnout of all age demographics. Well, the answer is very simply, it's something we take for granted. But imagine you live somewhere where you didn't have the right to vote. And there's many women across this room today. Imagine you lived in Saudi Arabia where you didn't have the right to vote. Then how would you feel? I know I wouldn't be happy. There are people across this world who would and have died for their right to vote. If that's not enough, then maybe this is. It's no secret, as I say, that young people have the lowest turnout. And this is a tragedy. And politicians need to do more to address the grievances of young people. Now, I'm not in the business of politician bashing, and I know some do an absolutely sterling job with young people. But it is important that politicians do more, and that young people see that politicians are doing more. But we live in the real world where politics is about power and it's about winning votes. If young people have the lowest voter turnout, then parties aren't going to guide policies towards young people. They're going to guide policies towards those age demographics that do vote, because that's how they win elections. Maybe if we voted, then they would listen to us. I also wonder if more young people had voted in the last UK election, would Nick Clegg have been so quickly to U-turn on university tuition fees? Now, it's also important to note that I'm not saying that you should go out and you should vote for someone just for the sake of it. I know a lot of people have issues. A lot of people say to me they have issues with the political parties here, with no disrespect, but a lot of young people do. And a lot of young people feel disillusioned with the traditional political divide. But that doesn't mean you should do nothing. And I think there is a mechanism that you can use that is often underused, and that is spoiling your ballot. To spoil your ballot means that you're going to the polls, that you're getting out on voting day. It means that you're being part of democracy. You're dispelling of the myth that young people are too lazy and aren't mature. It's saying, I'm not satisfied with the choices that we have. Maybe if that doesn't work, then start your own party or join a party. I don't know. But Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So if you're not happy, then do something about it. The point is get involved, participate. And there are so many ways in which you can do that. Now, I want to finish on this, as I've talked a lot about kind of local and UK, but as it's Commonwealth, I thought I'd bring an international dimension into it. And as young people, we often feel powerless to make change. And I have to ask the question, why? Because a brief summary of history will show you that young people have been the foot soldiers of change across the world. Our very own Students' Union at Queen's University and students' unions across the world went out and attempted and did all they could to ensure that the apartheid government in South Africa freed Nelson Mandela and boycotted South African goods. Students' unions across the world did their part to end the barbaric racist regime that was apartheid South Africa. If we think back to the 1960s in the United States of America, it was young people across the United States who got African Americans out on the streets and not to cooperate with racist segregation laws. It was young people went out and fought in the Second World War against the Nazis because they believed in democracy. But these are the young people that we have to take inspiration from, because we can be those young people. Now, I have to say this. The world is quite a dark place, not for us, but for many, and many across the Commonwealth. Tomorrow morning, many young people will wake up with no roof over their head, no breakfast at the table, and no school to go to. Tomorrow, many young people across our world will wake up and will contract diseases such as HIV, AIDS, cholera, malaria, could go on. Diseases that can be treated and can be prevented, but won't be. Tomorrow, many young people across our world will wake up in what is their last day on this earth. But we can do our part, but only if we believe in ourselves, only if we believe that we can make a difference. This is what motivated me to get involved in politics. Because I believe as a young person, I can make a difference. And I believe politics can make a difference. But as I say, we need to empower ourselves and we need to empower others. I want to finish on a quote, and those in the room who know me will not be surprised who it's from. It's from a personal inspiration of mine, Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela said, "It often seems impossible until it's done." Making change in the world seems an impossible task. But it can and it will be done, but only if we believe in ourselves. Thank you.